Hey guys, aloha, shalom, Shabbat shalom, what's up? It's good to see you guys tuning in. Let me know where you're tuning in from, and if you feel called, just share your name. So you can just write a little comment and say your name and where you're tuning in from, okay? So I have some cards laid out before me, and I have some notes, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about a manipulation within the Rider-Waite Tarot deck, which I do use, but I draw over a lot of the cards and I see through the manipulations myself. And these manipulations are also often found in most other modern decks of tarot cards. So a lot of people ask me, what decks do you use? Why do you use those decks? And, what are these manipulations you speak about? And I do have a couple of videos about these manipulations on my YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed yet, you just go to youtube.com/RebeccaMagic, just like my name is written here. And if you look at some of my older videos, you'll find these manipulations that I talk about. So the main manipulation is between number 8 and 11 in modern tarot decks. Oftentimes you'll see that justice and strength are switched and they're in the improper place. Like I said, I do have a video about that already on my YouTube channel. But right now, I want to talk about the elemental manipulation because a lot of people have been asking me about this lately, and I think it's really important to kind of expand on this subject and have a wider perspective on the elemental suits, because what is taught, like I said, in modern times as far as these modern tarot decks is incomplete and it's manipulated. So as you guys probably already know, the major arcanum are separate from the 4 suits, and those are the major cards of the deck, and each of those cards you can really see all of the elements in. Okay? And even with the 4 suits, dividing them into the 4 elements, we have the wands, the coins or pentacles, the swords, and the cups. Even going into those 4 suits, you can see all of the elements within each of those 4 suits. Each one is within the one. So you can make elemental references to any of the 4 elements within each of the suits. The only difference is the priority order of the elements in each of the suits, okay? So there's always an element that is the priority focus. And I'm going to explain what I'm speaking about here, okay? Let's start with Pentacles. And I have the aces out to represent each of the elements because the aces are the raw power of that element. It's an initiation within that element. It's the beginning of a pursuit within that suit, okay? I'm gonna relate this to seasons because the 4 elements really represent the 4 phases of creation, and the easiest way to see that is by examining the seasons. So let's talk about first coins or pentacles. A lot of people will hear that this is the suit for the earth element or the physical realm. Okay, but it's actually not. This is swords. So it's opposite of what you've been taught. Maybe some of you have been taught the truthful way, but for those of you who haven't, this is what's going on here. There's a manipulation between these 2 elements. Air, it's commonly said that swords is air and that pentacles is earth, but it's the other way around. And I'm going to explain why. Although this pentacle or this coin seems to be a material item, what it's representing is something that is beyond the material realm. It's representing the cause of the effect that appears to be this coin. It's representing the behind the scenes energy, the mental energy, or the conception or realization that then manifests as this coin or gold. And the value of this gold, of this coin, is determined by the depth of that thought or realization. Yeah, mind on my money, and my money on my mind. So you've got to know that when something appears to be so obvious, that's when you really need to take a deeper look. That's when you need to look again. So yeah, it appears like, oh yeah, physical, that's a coin, that's money, it's the material realm. But that's when you really have to check yourself and ask, okay, but where is that manifesting from? So the suit of coins is actually the mind. And the balmy air of spring is actually associated with coins and the suit of the mind and air. Springtime is the period of renewed life. So that's why you'll often see like a rose is a symbol of a lot of mystical orders. It's a symbol for renewed life. Oh, there's so many bugs here, you guys, bear with me. So springtime brought a new food supply, which nourished life, and the food had to be purchased, hence the coins. Now, people often will read tarot with modern playing cards. And you're like, well, how do you do that? Because those symbols are entirely different than the tarot. It's actually more simplified. You have the clubs, you have the spades, you have the diamonds, the hearts. So the air suit, springtime, coins, became associated with diamonds because diamonds were a more valuable currency in the times of trade. So diamonds is associated with coins, which is, in truth, related to the air element and the mind. You always want to look deeper than what just the outside appearance is. That's what tarot is all about, looking deeper, looking at the opposite of what's being shown, really staying present and not making assumptions, but looking to the depths of the truth. So now you know why the pentacles are actually air. All things begin in the mind. But of course, it also involves the earthly element. Because if you think about it, all thoughts, become things. Okay? And also, let's go even deeper and see how the other elements are a part of this card. And maybe not as priority as mind is here, which is why that's the focus, air, mind. But let's just look at the other elements, okay? Water, cups. Even that is hidden within here because our emotions are the feelings that amplify our thoughts. And they're the emotions are the things that magnetize our manifestations to us. So no one of the elements can be without the others. They all work together, and each suit is just representing all of the elements in a different priority order. And let's think about fire, the final element. How is it associated with this? Because we want to raise the value of our coins, our gold, the manifestation of our realizations by building our spirit, fire. We want to make sure that all of our thoughts are spiritually charged so as to imbue them with purpose, sacred purpose and divinity, so that when we do manifest these coins, a product of our realizations, they're more valuable. We create a world of higher value. So you can see how all of the elements are really involved here, but the main focus when you pull this card. So for example, you can work with the manipulated version and you can consider this as the suit of earth. But when you alter your awareness and you apply the truthful version and you see this as air, it simply refocuses your awareness into a more efficient channel. So you'll get more out of the reading. It helps you uncover another layer, lift another veil. So you can really look at this you can see this as any of the elements. But when you see the coins as air, watch what's going to happen. It's going to uncover another layer. It takes you deeper. Because what it helps you do is not focus just on the material reality, but focus on the energies behind it, the world of the cause and not the effect. So give it a try. For those of you who are watching this video, I assume you're into tarot and maybe you do your readings. Give it a try. Next time you pull this suit, consider switching your perspective, seeing the coins as the air element and not just the earth element. And then you can consider how it's manifested in the other realms. Give it a try. And I would love to know how your practice shifts when you do this. Now, let's talk about swords. Why is the swords earth and not air, the physical and not the mind? So all things begin in the mind, first of all. It's the nature of our reality. The first principle of hermetics is the principle of the mind. So sure, first these manifestations begin in the mind, like all things, But then what happens is it manifests in the physical realm as a struggle or as an opportunity for us to exert ourselves and our power and our truth. The sword is an occult symbol and always has been this occult symbol for our truth, our expression. And wherever that sword is pointed is always very intentional. It's telling you something. It's revealing where the truth is being inserted and in what way, positively or negatively, pointing up, pointing down, for example. And swords are double-edged, okay? Truth is dual. Truth is dual. It's not black or white, it's both. So swords are really earth and not mind, because it's the suit of challenges and struggles which are inevitable only in this realm. In the mind, we don't have a need for those struggles. We only create them. We create our own limitations and our own struggles so that we can overcome them and enjoy this life experience. That's the whole reason we're here. So why would swords represent the mind when the mind is a place of infinite possibility? A place where we are free to set ourselves free in any moment and shift our thinking and reprogram what's inside there. No, the swords represent struggles which would only apply to the physical realm. And that's good. That's why we're here, because without the struggle, there's nothing to transcend. So if you missed the activation, I do an activation every week for the collective. I've been doing it for 3 years now. Jump in anytime. If you missed it last night, it was a very powerful one for this full moon eclipse we're experiencing actually right now, as we speak. It's on its way to 7,000 views right now between Facebook and YouTube. So know that if you tune into that activation, you are activating with thousands of other people who vibe at your frequency. So maybe you want to check that out. And I'm saying this because one of the 3 cards that were pulled last night was the King of Swords. And the kings are the masters of whatever suit we're talking about. So the King of Swords, he's the king of challenges. He's the master of getting through struggle and challenge. And wow, what an ally to have right now at this time of all this stuff happening everywhere all over the world, right? So if that piques your interest, go ahead and check it out. The live video is on my wall. The link to the YouTube video is also on my wall. And stay tuned, because the unfolding it never ends, and we do these activations every week. And you'll get to learn a lot about what I'm describing here through just watching the activations. You'll learn so much by just watching and throwing yourself into the energy. So again, Pentacles is not earth, it's the mind, and then things manifest into the earthly realm, onto the physical plane. Swords is not mind, but all things do begin in the mind. Rather, swords are the earthly plane because it represents our struggles, which are not as significant in the realm of the mind as all possibilities exist there in the mind. Doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that make so much more sense? So now you see the manipulation. And again, like I said, why do so many people not notice this manipulation? Because you can still do a reading with from the viewpoint that Pentacles is earth and Swords is air, because all of the elements are contained in each suit. The many live within the one. Just like each major arcanum character and card has all of the elements within each of them, so too do these. So I'm just asking that you open up your mind, all you tarot readers, card readers, or spiritual folks who are into this archetypal awareness. I'm asking that you open up your mind and see the elements as they exist, united with the others. And see how, from that expanded perspective, you can go so much deeper with your reading. Why? Because it helps you to understand the multidimensional answer of what it is you're uncovering in your reading, rather than just looking at it from one plane. The only distinction, the only difference that you want to see when you're pulling one element or another is which one is the focus, okay? So what I mean by that is, let's say you pull a Wands card. And this is fire, this is spirit. The Wands and the Cups, really, it's hard to manipulate those. So those have remained pretty obvious since ancient times. So Wands has always been fire and spirit. Now, if you pull this card, what I'm saying is you want to see the focus. You want to jump into the understanding from the spiritual perspective. You want to first focus on the spiritual realm and see how whatever question you're asking is related to that realm. And then what you want to do is ask, okay, how is this manifesting emotionally for me with the suit of water? Because although it's fire, I want to understand how it's manifesting emotionally, because as in one dimension, so in all. When something happens in one dimension, it reflects in all of the others in a different way. So first you'd want to ask, what's going on in the spiritual realm? Okay, that's the root. Now, how am I responding? Because we can't help but respond energetically, emotionally, mentally. How am I feeling in response to this fire? What are my emotions? So I consider the cups and the heart, emotions, water. Then I might ask, okay, and how is that manifesting physically for me? Because although it's a spiritual concept and the root is there as far as whatever question you're asking, how is that manifesting physically? For example, you may be going through something on your spiritual path, having to leave an old part of yourself behind, right? Ego death, we're all familiar with that. Having to leave an old part of yourself behind. Well, that's certainly not only fire. You can see how that would be an emotional process. It would also involve water. You could see how that would be a physical process. It might be literally making you depressed to the point where you're not leaving your room and you're creating an illness for yourself. And then, of course, mind, consider the suit of Pentacles, as we now learned that's actually the suit of mind. Of course, that's going to affect you mentally. So do you see what I'm saying? Each of the suits, when you pull them, it has a focus point. Cups, right away, you want to look to the emotional dimension. Okay, this is a matter of the heart and my emotions. But then, after considering that focus point, right, that's where you enter into the stream or the flow of energy. After considering that, then you want to see how it's reflecting for you mentally, how you're responding mentally. What are your thoughts that are a result of this feeling? What am I then physically manifesting? The suit of swords. What challenges am I experiencing in my life because of this emotion? And then I would consider fire and the suit of wands. And wow, how is this emotion reflecting what is happening spiritually for me on my spiritual path? So when you put it in that right order, it allows you the proper circumspection, right? Like that of the sage, which we talked about in last night's activation. It allows you to see the full picture, the bigger picture, and not just one dimensional aspect, but the interdimensional aspects of the answer that you're seeking. And there's always, always a most efficient way to move through this process of uncovering the answers in each of the dimensions. And the way to do that is as I've just described, by starting with the element that's represented mainly. All the others are just hidden in there. And those all shift as a result of the one that you're facing and looking at. So that's how you can allow the tarot to guide you elementally. Okay? I think that's pretty clear now. If you guys have any questions, you can feel free to private message me. I also just want to talk about a couple more things. And I wrote down some notes for you here. So, in modern playing cards, you have the different suits, right? Those relate to the 4 suits within the tarot. So we talked about springtime, the coin, the pentacle, being the diamond, a form of currency, right? Now summer. Summer always brought the 3-leaf clover, which was important for forage to the flocks of a pastoral people. The clover became associated with the heat of summer. And so then heat and fire can also be produced by wood, right? So then came the scepters or wands. It's obvious. When you look at those wands, you know it refers to fire and spirit. Okay, so this is why clovers refers to the wood. The suit of clubs refers to the suit of fire or scepters or wands. So seasonally now we understand spring and summer. Well, let's talk about autumn. Autumn was when wine was pressed from the grape, a time of festivity and marriage. Therefore, the cup or grail was used for the wine, and it became the symbol for emotions or the heart. The heart, then, in modern playing cards, came to represent the cup. So now we have the diamonds, the clubs, and the cups, you see. So you can really use just a modern deck of cards to read tarot. Winter was a time of death and want. It was important to work hard to gather a store of food for the winter, just like squirrels gather acorns, right? And so this is how the acorn became a symbol for winter. And then as winters grew more harsh for the settling people, the sword became the symbol for struggles and strife. Okay? If you look at the spade, that's the final symbol of the cards that we're discussing here. If you look at the spade symbol, which represents the swords, it's a modern symbol for toil, for hard work. It's a shovel. Therefore, the shovel, or the spade in modern playing cards, is associated with the sword, the suit of struggles within the tarot. So just some interesting information for you. I don't mean to overload you with information, but I know a lot of you are interested in making the different connections between tarot and other decks and other symbols that maybe aren't even just in cards, but are all around you. And now I want to talk about some of the major arcanum cards, okay? This whole idea of inter-inclusion that this video is about, how each of the ones are within the one, is a highly Kabbalistic topic. If you look at the tree of life, okay, the Kabbalistic tree and all the Sephirot, which are basically like the chakras, but there's 10, and then there's the 22 channels, making the 32, the holy 32, and then you become the 33, the channel for all that, da 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 da. If you're looking at that Kabbalistic tree, each Sephirah, each chakra or each wheel on that tree can only be defined by looking at the peripheral ones, the surrounding ones. Sort of like when you look ahead, you're the center, you're the focal point, but you can't see yourself. You can only define yourself by what's around you, right? That's why our reflections are so valuable. Our relationships are our most valuable way to learn, because that's how we learn about ourselves. We can't possibly see ourselves. You know, it's kind of weird, like when you look around your eye, you can kind of see the shape of your eye socket and your nose, but it's impossible to look directly at yourself. You know, a mirror is not quite the same. So we define ourselves through our reflections, right? And that's the same way you want to look at the Kabbalistic tree of life. Each Sephirah is defined by its surrounding Sephirot. So all of them are contained within each one. For example, if you take any one of the Sephirot and you go deeper into it, sort of like a camera focusing in and seeing more detail, you'll see that there's ever a smaller tree and a smaller tree within that. So, for those of you who are familiar with the Kabbalistic terms within the tree, let's talk about Chesed. Chesed has a Binah and a Keter, and it has a Chokhmah, and it has a smaller tree within it, okay? Just like you and I have a masculine and a feminine, the parts are within the one. I'm going a little off topic here. I'm going a little crazy. The main point is inter-inclusion. The many are within the one. So I have some examples here to show you. A lot of people think that this is the Aquarian card of the deck, the star. It looks very Aquarian, looks like a water bearer. And like I said, you can find many astrological and zodiacal connections here because all of them are present within each one. But actually, this is the Aquarian card of the deck, which we pulled in last night's activation. Why? Because prudence and circumspection, which are key aspects of this card, are associated with Aquarius. Why is this not Aquarius? What's the main sign for it then? It's actually Gemini, because the theme of this card is very much duality. You can see she's nurturing both her emotional nature as represented by the water and her rational nature as represented by the land. Then there's the 8 points here representing total balance of the opposite forces. A 4 and 4 makes 8 equal and opposite forces, okay? Sign of balance. So everything here is really talking about this polarity and truth, because the 17 is right after 16. The tower falls, number 16. We have 16 watchers right now, and now we have 17, the star. So we had 16, the tower falls, and when everything that's false crumbles away, all that's left is the light of hope inside, the star, that light that can never be destroyed. So that's returning to the truth, returning to the center. But that center, that truth, is dual in nature, just like Mother, Father, God, or the Elohim. There's the feminine and the masculine aspects within the one. And that's best represented not by Aquarius, but by Gemini, of course. Then I want to talk about death and the sovereign. A lot of people think that death is associated with Scorpio. Okay? But actually, it's associated with Aries. And you're like, what? Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it's new life, and it's a beginning. Yeah, but the ending is implicit in the beginning, and vice versa. The beginning is implicit in the end. So if you consider the zodiac wheel, Aries in the very beginning is right after the death. It's the rise up again. So this card being represented by Aries is revealing the key to this arcanum. It's revealing the secret that death is not just death, but we move on to then eternal life. So the rise is written in the fall. So no, it's not Scorpio, but it's Aries. And then vice versa, a lot of people think that the Emperor is Aries, because look, it's got those rams all over, the red. It is associated also with Mars, okay? Just like Scorpio. Scorpio and Aries are both ruled by the planet Mars. But although a lot of people think that the Emperor, better known as the Sovereign, is Aries, this is actually Scorpio. Scorpio also ruled by Mars. But Scorpio more so is fitting to represent that virility and fruitfulness. Because Scorpio represents that sexuality which bears the fruits. So you got to look deeper, okay, right? When you look at the card and you just make a quick assumption about what it is, chances are what you're assuming is not necessarily going to be the case. The secrets are more hidden. They're esoteric. They're occult. You have to look deeper to extract the true meaning. So again, a lot of people see death and they think Scorpio, but it's actually Aries. Makes you really have to think twice, right? And a lot of people think Aries here, but it's actually Scorpio, because Scorpio represents that fruitfulness. And the Emperor is the sovereign. He protects life. He's right after the Empress, who is the pregnant woman birthing the life, and then he provides the form and the structure for the maintenance and the continuation and the survival of that form. So it's not always what it appears to be on the outside, all right? And I'm really glad I got to do this video for you guys, because a lot of people who follow me are tarot readers or are into this kind of magic, and there are so many manipulations out there, and I think this elemental one that I spoke about at the beginning here is really a key in unlocking that expanded perspective in doing these types of readings. So if you're just tuning in now, go ahead and go to the beginning if you want to hear about that manipulation. Again, I have an older video on my channel talking about the manipulation between card number 8 and 11 in the Rider-Waite deck. You could check out that video. But long story short, you want to take out that deck, you want to cross off the 8 and cross off the 11 and switch those numbers, okay? Because 8 is actually the number for balance, not strength. Balance, also known in modern times as justice. 11 is not the card for justice or balance. Rather, it's the card for strength, known in ancient Egypt as the Enchantress. Do you guys want to hear about that manipulation? And I'll sum it up. Just let me know in the comments and I'll gladly continue and just give you a little bit about that, because the video that I had made on that is a little bit older, so you may or may not be able to find that below on my YouTube channel. So I'll go ahead and give you guys just a little bit. Why is 8 the number for balance and justice and not 11? Well, 11, you have to reduce everything to a single digit to get its truth. 11 reduced to a single digit is actually a 2 with the higher potential and power of 11. We can only get to that higher power by opening up to true source energy. It's not ego force, but it's divine source. Okay, so 11 is 2 with the higher power of 11. if 11 were to represent that balance and justice, it would be implying that there's more than one. But there is truly only one. The many live within the one. 2 is the number of polarity and the number of man, as we each have that masculine and feminine force within. 8 much better represents this concept of eternal balance, which has within it a natural system of justice, a natural order. It's not up to man to decide that order. It's already written. There's a natural system of laws built into our nature. And that's best represented by 8. Why? First of all, take 8, put it on its side. What is it? It's the symbol for infinity. And this law is universal and it's eternal. Okay, also, breaking the number 8 up into 4 plus 4. 4 is a form or force. Okay, and it also shows activity in all of the 4 realms, sort of like the 4 wheels of a complete chariot. So if you have 2 fours, 2 forms, 2 forces, that's showing that you have the potential to create the 8. You have everything you need to create that whole system of justice and balance, because you have a force and an equal and opposite force. So picture like those 2 fours, right? The two forms coming together, and you have the 8. And those forces are in constant oscillation, which maintain this reality we see around us, right? The forces oscillate, they keep everything moving and living. But then what happens in the center? That's stillness. And you could either see that center point, that stillness point where everything is diffused and neutralized, you could either see that as death or eternal life. It's like you can see it as the space of the heart, an infinite expansion, stillness. So are you understanding now why 8 is the better number to represent justice and balance? I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? And in ancient times, Arcanum 8 was always this balance. Now it's known as justice. And either one is a pretty good name for it, but I prefer the balance. Now going to 11, why is 11 better represented by strength, or in ancient Egypt known as the enchantress? Because 11, again, is 2, the number of man, right? We have these forces of polarity within us. We each have these 2 halves within us. But raised to the higher power. And when we connect to our divinity and we raise our frequency, that's our real strength. This is why the strength card is not represented by a man, but rather it's a woman. And she's gently taming the lion, right? That's the strength card. And I'll pull it out for you guys. And it's showing a woman to represent the feminine nature that we all have, every man and woman. It's showing that your true strength is actually in your feminine nature, in your more subtle nature, in your intuition. That's where your strength really lies. So that's what that's saying. That's why number 11 is more fitting to be the strength card, okay? And not 8. Also, when you're examining any card, so you could see how I changed the number at the top. When you're examining any card, you want to look to the card before and after, right? Because if we want to define one, we have to look to the ones around it, like we talked about in the beginning of the video, inter-inclusion. So what's the one that comes before 11? It's 10, the wheel. You can see that as like taking the wheel, okay? Recognizing that you have the ability to direct your fortune positively or negatively. The sages did this by observing the stars and aligning with the cycles of nature, right? So once you pass through the initiation of the 10, that's how you reach the 11. So we go through this taking hold of the wheel, and we align ourselves with the cycles and the seasons of nature, thus aligning ourselves with our spirituality. Because nature is just an open book revealing God or spirit. It's a reflection of the divinity behind it, the forces that control it, that guide it. So when we align with nature, we align with spirit. And that's how we move on to real strength. So picture 11 like a reflection. Okay, as above, so below, as within, so without. The one reflects the one. So when we, as one, complete being, integrating our polarities. When we become whole, we reflect the greater one, God, Source, Great Spirit. And we open up to that true strength. Not the strength of the ego or brute force physical strength. No, true divine strength. That's how we tap into our unlimited potential. So you can really see why strength really belongs at 11 and not 8. When we align first with 10, we take that wheel, we align with nature and we align with spirit. All that's in the way of, all that's in the way of aligning our frequency with purity and innocence falls away. And this is represented by the 12, okay? So we go from the 10, we take the wheel, we align ourselves with nature and with spirit, we receive the open channel, we create that open channel to our true strength, and then we move to 12. You guys may know him as the Hanged Man, but he's also known as the Martyr. Why do we find ourselves there after strength? Because now at strength we get a taste of our true strength, our true power, our intuition. We see what it feels like to be guided by this higher power. And so then we move on to the martyr and we say, I am willing to sacrifice whatever I must, all that I must, even if it needs to be my life. I'm willing to sacrifice whatever I must to maintain this open channel to God, Source, Great Spirit. That's the ultimate martyr, right? So we get a taste of the strength and we really understand what it means to open up to it. And now we see what's really worth sacrificing. What is a worthy cause to sacrifice for? And then even going farther, after the martyr, you have death. That's when you transform because of what you were willing to give up. You create a space for the new to come in, and that's the death. And then you move on to 14, which is temperance, rising above the physical plane to rewrite the script. Okay, so we can keep going. It's a sequence, but now you kind of get the idea. So that was a lot of information. I'm going to stop there. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and kind of, even if it is a little unclear or it was a lot, just know it's sinking into your subconscious. The truth is being revealed. And just now you know that there are manipulations within the modern decks. You don't have to be scared of them because, as I said previously, you can still perform these readings using the manipulated truth. And it's not necessarily going to do you harm, not necessarily, okay? It's just not always going to take you as deep as you really can go. So you widen and expand your potential when you see tarot and these cards from a more truthful perspective, which is what I'm trying to offer you here in this video, and what I'll be sharing more about in the coming weeks. So just know that knowledge is power. Don't be afraid of making mistakes or being manipulated, because if you're so afraid of these things, then you'll be paralyzed by your fear and you'll never get ahead. You'll never get anywhere. So it's better to, and I shared this in my tarot class the other day, it's better to will and do ill than to do nothing at all. We are here to act on what we know, and we can't help but make mistakes and sometimes act out of ignorance because we don't know it all. We're constantly learning and growing. So humility is obviously the key, but don't give up. Don't be so afraid of making a mistake or being manipulated that you don't even begin the journey at all. Just know that knowledge is power, and the more you learn, the more you'll refine your practice, and the more you'll expand your perspective and be able to go ever deeper. So the worst that could happen is you just don't reach those depths right away, and that's okay. That's totally okay. If you guys enjoyed this lesson and this information, we are meeting every Wednesday for a tarot Zoom class, and you can be on or off the camera, it doesn't matter, but I love the participation. I love when people ask questions and share their own perspective. But every Wednesday we're doing the Zoom class, and it's on the major arcanum, and we're going into the occult symbolism within the cards. And I promise you there's going to be information in there that you've never heard before. I'm sharing my personal perspectives as well, and I'm also particularly going deep into the Hebrew because I'm working on a book right now to show you how to read tarot by using only the Hebrew alphabet. So I share a lot about that in the Zoom course. And again, it's every Wednesday. If you want the information, let me know. For those of you who haven't joined yet, we've only done 2 classes so far. We did the Fool. There's a butterfly right here. We did the Fool and we did the Magician. And all the classes are recorded. So if you want to catch up, I can send you the link and the password. You can catch up whenever it's right for you. You can write down your questions and send them my way. I'm very interactive. I love answering your private questions, so shoot them my way. And this Wednesday we'll be doing card number 2, the High Priestess, or better known as the Veiled Isis. And all of these Zoom courses, by the way, are by donation. So whatever you have to offer is fine with me. I'm really doing this to get the information out there and to offer you guys who are really interested in going deeper that chance to go deeper. So again, it's all by donation. Send me a private message if you're interested in learning more. My book is also out and I've been shipping it all over the world. Thank you guys so much for those of you who've supported and been sharing your feedback about the book. I love getting your selfies with my book. It's my favorite thing ever. I have a collection of all of your beautiful faces with my book. It just makes my heart so happy. So if you guys are interested in hearing more about what I shared today, my book really offers a lot of this kind of a perspective on the tarot. Beyond it just being a deck of cards, okay? I had a friend who said, I don't know if I'll be able to understand because, you know, I never really got into the tarot. And in that exact moment, another friend messaged me and said, wow, you know, I'm on chapter 6 and I just really feel that for those who've never even learned anything about tarot before, they could follow this book. Oh, it's beginning to rain. And so, yes, rain in the desert. Thank you guys for experiencing this blessing with me right now live. Do a little rain dance. Give thanks. So for those of you who are scared, like, I don't know if I'll be able to understand your book, I made it so that anybody could understand, okay? Because these characters are not just a deck of cards, but they are representing the different parts of the human psyche, and we're all human, right? At least part. So it's relative to everyone. They also make great gifts. I've been sending them out, signing different people's names. Like somebody will buy it from me and say, hey, sign it to this person because it's going to be a gift. So it's just a fun idea. The Zoom classes, you know, share those with your friends. And I also am still offering private readings and private one-on-one tarot lessons, which is a totally different ballgame. If you guys are interested in that or interested in giving a tarot reading as a gift, Father's Day is coming up. I'm sure you know of people having their birthday this month. These readings make a great gift because they're very personal and intimate. It's a gift that could change someone's life, and it's so affordable too. So again, just consider purchasing a reading for your friends or loved ones, and whether or not they're struggling doesn't matter. Tarot, what it does is just helps guide your experience in the most efficient way. So for example, if everything's going gravy and everything's positive in your life, it just helps to reinforce that and clear away any extra stuff that might be in the way of expanding on that abundance even more. So it's good for any time, for anyone. Did you guys know that before these characters were put onto cards, they were actually shields in Egypt? They were on metal plates, and they were a system of guidance for the Egyptian people. Not just for the magicians, but for all of the people. Whether they were struggling or not at all, they looked to this system to make sure and to constantly reevaluate to make sure that they were walking the best path they possibly could, that they were aligning their energies individually and as a collective society in a way that was for the highest good of the one. So this archetypal alliance has been guiding people since ancient times, way before it was a card game. So now that you know that, maybe you'll consider just how much this story of the tarot is written into your own DNA. Thank you guys for tuning in. Shabbat Shalom. If you guys are not already a part of my private group, go ahead and search Shabbat Crew, add the group. I'll accept you in. I'm going to be sharing a lot more in there today specifically, and I'll be going live later in there too. So go ahead and add that group. I also have a private group called The Royal Path, and that's all tarot related stuff. So go ahead and join either one or both of those. And thanks again, you guys. I appreciate you. Shabbat Shalom.